and welcome to the Boardman Park Report. I'm Jet Ventresco, and I'm with BSTN. Joining me today is the Boardman Park Director, Dan Slagle, and Park Board member, Ken Goldsboro. Thank you for being here, guys.
Hey, thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Appreciate it.
Mr. Goldsboro, I understand that you were recently appointed to the Park Board. Can you tell us why you wanted to serve the board?
Yeah, sure, thank you. My interest was really just to give back to the community that I grew up in and still live in. My parents really moved here when I was like 4 years old, and I remember playing Little League in the park before Boardman had the Field of Dreams when I was like 9 years old. So I've been an active member or user of the park for a number of years. Even today, my family uses the park on a regular basis, whether it's just to take a walk or attend the Memorial Day celebration or the 4th of July fireworks and the military band, which frankly is my favorite. I'm a member of Boardman Rotary, so I'm at the park weekly for our weekly meetings. You know, our biggest fundraiser for Rotary is the October Festival, which is also held in the park. So I'm in the park a lot, and I just thought serving on the board is an opportunity to give back.
Awesome, thank you. Mr. Slagle, the last time the park board members were here, we talked about how wisely the park uses its money. A 2016 national survey showed we spend less than other parks our size, but get more services. There's now an update on that. There's a new report out. Can you elaborate on it if you can?
Yeah, the National Recreation and Park Association for a long time they've been doing surveys, studies, and we've been part of that, our input, our data into those surveys. And recently they released the 2017 performance review. The report has a lot of data. They do demographically categorize parks in relation to what, like the size of the area served, population, etc. So I'd like to share with you some of that information as a result of that survey. Operating expenditures per capita, Boardman Township Park is $35.64. Our demographic category at the national level is $72.63. Revenue per capita, Boardman Township Park, $11.68. The national is $16.10. Operating expenditure per parkland, okay, we're at $5,172. The national number is $7,169. Number of participants per program, we are at 1,320. The national number is 76. So I think based on that, as well as some of the other surveys that have come out recently, I can safely say that we operate very efficiently and very effectively. The effectiveness of the park, I think, is well demonstrated by the popularity of the park itself. Just to give you some idea, since 2009, our visitors have increased by 55%. In fact, last 2016, we set an all-time record of over 540,000 people visited the park. And I think that number is based on our commitment to provide a diversity of programs for all ages. I think if you look at, we track our visitors into 4 categories. First of all, the people that come to our programs and events. Secondly, the people that use our facilities, our open air pavilions, our indoor meeting rooms. Third category, people that come to special events not sponsored by the park. For example, the October Festival, Cars in the Park, etc. In fact, throughout the year, we host at least 6 or 7 fundraising events sponsored by local nonprofit organizations. And then our 4th category is the people that we call casual visitors. Those are the people that come out to have lunch in the park, walk in the park, jog in the park, use the dog park, most recently the disc golf course. So those are the 4 categories. And just to give you some idea, we call them reservation holders, people that make reservations to use our facilities. We average annually about 3,000 reservations a year, which equates out to over 225,000 people. In 2016, the people that came to our events and programs was well over 40,000 people. So this trend has been ongoing since 2009. And I think part of that is that our purpose really is to provide wholesome activities for families, neighbors, and friends. And I think based on our numbers, it's well demonstrated. Secondly, I think it's since 2001, we adopted a master plan, and we have worked with the community to implement that plan. And the realization has turned out that we have a unique footprint where we have 243 acres of green space in Boardman Township, and that doesn't include our 40 acres of open space property. Well, this footprint, we have 60 acres dedicated to develop recreational facilities and 167 acres, 183 acres of natural habitat. So a lot of people that use our park tell us that they come there because if you're going to have a family reunion and you reserve an open air pavilion, they like the convenience that all the recreational facilities are in close proximity. So if you come and you have an open air pavilion, you want to use a playground, it's all within close walking distance. You don't have to get in your car, drive to a trail, drive to a playground, etc. So, excuse me. And then lastly, the efficiency of the park. We've been operating on the same voted levy since 1980. In fact, we have 2 levies that are voted. One is 3/10 of a mil, one is 6/10 of a mil, and we get 1/10 of a mil of inside millage. Back in 1947, when the park was established, excuse me, the first park levy was in 1948. It was a 1 mil levy. And throughout the years from 1948 to 1980, that levy, because of the reduction factor, was reduced down to 3/10 of a mil. In 1980, the park got a new levy, a 6/10 mil levy. And so today, we have a 3/10, a 6/10, and 1/10 of a mil, which factors out to be 1 mil. So for the last 69 years, we've been operating on the equivalent of a 1 mil levy.
Wow. Is it solely on levies? Is there any other way where you guys are financed, or is it just levies?
Well, it's not solely on levies, but the majority of our funding for the park does come through the real estate taxes. Approximately, we have a budget of about 1.3 million. Approximately 66% of that is through the 1 mil levy that Dan references. Another large piece of it is made up really of our activities, renting or leasing our facilities, our open air and pavilions, and our indoor facilities, along with some of the programs that we have. We do charge a fee for. That revenue is about 27%. So with those 2 programs and the millage, that's about 93% of our budget. And I did reference that there is a charge for some of our programs and some of our facilities, but more importantly, there's a lot of programs and facilities that we have that are free to the public. Dan had mentioned that we just added a pickleball court, which is 2 pickleball courts, which is actually a very popular sport nowadays, along with, he also mentioned disc golf. I mean, disc golf has grown in popularity, and we have people out there playing that 9-hole course a lot. We have 3 traditional playgrounds, tennis and sand volleyball courts, 4 miles of walking trails, 2 bocce courts. So there's a lot of opportunity to be at the park and not spend any money, basically. Additionally, we have programs that are free through primarily sponsorships, and we have the Thursday night music in the park, which 12 Thursdays throughout the summer we have a variety of different types of music and concerts at the park, and that's accomplished through sponsorships. I mentioned the 4th of July program where we have a military band and fireworks that night, which is a very well attended program, which is free to the public. We have family nights in the park, 4 of those a year. In the spring, we have the Maple Syrup Festival. In conjunction with Boardman Township, we do the Community Day event, which includes the Touch a Truck and so forth. They have the fire trucks out there, etc. And then twice a year, a very popular program is the Baby Bourgan Boutique, and that draws a lot of people for that. So, I'm really proud to report that we've been operating the park basically on a 1 mil levy for the last 69 years. So. And we always fight the battle of, the real estate taxes don't have an inflation factor built into them, so that money's fixed, and costs go up every year, no matter whether it's utilities or employee wages, etc. Plus, Dan had mentioned we've seen a dramatic increase in the use of the park. I mean, with attendance being up 40%. That's obviously a drain on services, which we need to keep up on. So, we have obviously challenges, but we're very proud of what we accomplished with our tax levies and our budget.
Awesome, thank you.
Sure.
Mr. Slagle, we understand now about the revenue side a bit better. Can you tell us in what way does the park spend its money?
Yes, our 2017 budget, and I'll just go through the different line items. Total employee cost, wages and benefits is 48% of our budget. Several years ago, the Ohio Park and Rec Association, which we're a member of, they have about 2,000 agencies statewide. They had a survey, and the question in the survey was percent of budget allocated to employee cost. The median for that survey was 58.4%. The state average was 61.4%. So based on our 48%, we're doing a very good job in controlling employee costs and benefits. Supplies and maintenance makes up about 9% of our budget. Utilities is 5% of our budget. And just to give you a dollar number, and Ken mentioned that, because of the increase in attendance, our operating costs have increased as well. Our electric bill annually is well over $50,000 a year, and that's attributed obviously to the people that use our indoor meeting rooms, our open air pavilions, St. James Meeting House. St. James Meeting House is very popular for weddings. We have over 300 weddings a year at St. James. Programming events is about 6% of our budget. Insurance, other costs is 5%. Usually we allocate about 10% of our budget to capital improvements. And we have a reserve fund which makes up about 17% of our budget. That reserve fund is earmarked for cash carryover. In Mahoning County, real estate taxes are collected mid-March, early April. So we need to have enough cash carryover to operate and maintain the park through the first quarter of any given year. So it's sort of critical that when we appropriate our money, a certain amount of that has to be appropriated to the reserve fund.
Awesome.
It's just being prudent is what it is.
Awesome, thank you. Boardman residents might ask, how much does the levy cost the average homeowner? Mr. Goldsboro.
Sure. The effective tax rate is Dan had mentioned, just under 1 mil. It's 0.9471, so almost 1 mil. That generates about $878,000 for the park, which is 65% of the budget. What that means for the individual homeowner is on a $100,000 valued home, it's about $30 a year. If you want to break that down to daily, it's like 9 cents a day, but it's $30 a year for a homeowner of a $100,000 home.
Awesome, thank you. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
I would just like to bring up the fact that while we've been operating on a 1 mil levy for 69 years, the park has more than tripled in size. As I said earlier, the park was established in 1947 by the vote of the people in Boardman Township, and I'm proud to say that that was a 4-to-1 margin when they approved the establishment of the Township Park District. Just to give you a little history, the initial park was 72 acres. The land that is now Boardman Township Park back in the early 1800s used to be a farm. And it was a farm for a number of years. During World War II, the federal government appropriated the land that is now Boardman Township Park for war purposes, which they never really used it for war purposes, but they were acquiring a lot of property back then. Well, after the war, that property became available. William Mogg Jr., Vindicator, WFMJ Radio and TV, was looking for a site to build a radio station in Boardman Township. He heard about the federal government having property available. But that property could only be acquired by local government. So he went to the Boardman Township trustees and worked out a deal where they would acquire 125 acres of that property. He would get 55 acres to establish radio tower, radio station, which is now the shops at Boardman Park. And the balance of that property would go to the township to establish a park. So they finalized the deal. In fact, Will Mogg lived across the street from the park, and some people in the community will remember the great big mansion. Well, that's where he lived. Obviously, there was a little bit of self-serving there because he was an environmentalist and used the park every day after it was established. So back in 1947, we had 72 acres. Today, we have 243 acres of property. So I think, you know, to his credit and to the people of the community that have worked with us to acquire additional property throughout the years, it's been wonderful.
And thank you. Thank you, Mr. Slagle, and thank you, Mr. Goldsboro.
Thank you.
For being here today. It's interesting for Boardman residents to hear how their tax dollars are being spent and remind them about all the services they can find in the Green Oasis. I'm Jeff Francesco. Thank you for watching the Boardman Park Report.